and 7 years ago, that was 7 years ago. So how I hear God, since I moved across the country, is I listen for his voice. And I make sure that whatever he's saying, whatever I believe he's saying to me, lines up with the word. Because God will never say something to you that contradicts what's in his word. So you see a lot of crazy people saying, oh, the Lord told me to do this, so I bought 10 ham sandwiches and ate them all. Like, the Lord didn't tell you to do that. He didn't tell you to do that. That was you being hungry. You know what I mean? So
that was you being fatty.
Yeah, the Lord will not, he won't do that. It'll always line up with his word, because that's that he's not going to contradict himself. So that's how I learn to hear God, is when I'm praying, I pray, and then I stop and listen. And I say, God, I'm going to pause, and I want you to talk to me. Because the thing is, when you ask God to speak to you and you're quiet long enough, he'll speak and he'll say something. Yeah. A lot of times you don't want to hear what he has to say. You don't want to listen to what he has to say because you don't like what he has to say. But he's still speaking. You know what I mean? And so when you pause and listen, then he'll say stuff. And whatever he says, it'll never contradict his word. And then you step out in faith, and he meets you and step out. Yeah. And all of a sudden you're living the best life ever because you're hearing from God. So.
Yeah, that's so good. And you just said something interesting, which I've struggled with too. I think sometimes the reality is we don't want to hear what God has to say.
Yeah.
And so our excuse can be is, I don't hear God. Well, I think if we really want to hear God, we'll pursue him, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's something we all need to continue to work on. And I think slowly God will mold our hearts to want what he wants, right?
Yes. I think that, sometimes when I'm not hearing God, because there's times where I'm like not hearing God, like the well's dried up or whatever, and it's the reason why I stopped hearing him is because he told me to do something and I didn't do it. Or he spoke to me about something, an area of my life that he told me to take care of, and I didn't take care of it. So why would God speak to me about something else when I haven't taken care of what he told me to take care of over here?
Amen.
You know what I mean? So sometimes the Lord's like, hey man, you don't need to be, hanging out with this person, or you need to listen to your mom, or you need to tithe, whatever. Like the Lord's saying something to you, and you're like, whatever, that's the devil, get behind me. Because when we try to dismiss it, like, that's not Jesus. And then you're like, oh Lord, please help me over here. Please give me wisdom or guidance, or speak to me about this. And he's like, well, you're not following over here. Like, let's get this taken care of, and I can meet you over here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think that sometimes, like you said, the question is not, am I hearing God? It's, am I being obedient to what he last told me?
That's so good.
You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of stuff in there. And I think I was telling, I think I mentioned that at the Experience Arts School.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that you really begin to hear God, like, honestly, like, oh man, I'm about to get into it. You begin to hear God when you are desperate to hear it.
That's so good.
Like, it's just, oh man, I think about, somebody that's, drowning, like they don't care what they look like. They're trying to stay alive. They're desperate to stay alive. So they're not caring what their friends think. They're not caring, they're trying to do whatever it takes to stay alive. And so I think if we took that drowning approach to God, like if you were on a Saturday morning and you said, God, I'm not leaving this room. I'm gonna turn this worship song, this whole Hillsong CD, I got all of them. I'm gonna turn all on repeat. I'm not leaving this room until you speak to me.
That's good.
Like God cannot ignore that type of desperation.
Oh,
God
no.
will not ignore that type of hunger. There was a lady in the Bible, and this is the thing, let me school you. So basically,
let's go.
You have the Jews, right, which was God's chosen people back in the day, Jesus, everybody Jews, and then and some of those Jews, and what you were supposed to do is if you were a Jew, you weren't supposed to marry outside of God's chosen people. Like you weren't supposed to do it, whatever. Things have changed now because we're all covered in the blood of Jesus. But anyway, whatever. Back then, you weren't supposed to. So there were some Jews that intermarried with other tribes around you, because the Jews would roll up into a place like, submiss everybody, and then like, it would be cool. But then some of those people would marry off into the, neighboring people, right? Y'all follow me? So those people were called Samaritans because they disobeyed God. They married off with these people, right? So Jews and Samaritans, they didn't, Jews didn't associate with Samaritans because they disobeyed God. We're not trying to be a part of that. I don't want the lightning to get to me, so you stay over there. So, long story short, Jesus is hanging out, doing his thing. There's a Samaritan woman that's saying, hey, Jesus, I need you to bless me. I need you to heal me. I need you to do something for me. And Jesus is like, nah. He didn't kick her, but he wouldn't have anything to do with her, right? But the thing is, he even said something. He said, it's not right for me to give the bread that belongs to the children to the dogs. And that's what he was talking, that's what he was calling her, right? And you would think if Jesus insulted you like that, it's like, you know what? Leprosy doesn't even sound that bad. I'm gonna just die with it, like, whatever. But she said something back. She said, but even the dogs get the crumbs from the master's table. And the thing is, she was so desperate to get to Jesus. Jesus was like, you know what? Psh, I got you. You know, because it was the desperation that he couldn't ignore. So, just to move on, I would say that if you're having trouble hearing with God, lock yourself in your room. Like, get rid of your phone and buy an analog Bible that has pages. And say, God, I'm not leaving here until you speak to me. And the thing is, God honors, he honors that desperation, but he also honors preparation. So if you got your Bible and you've got a pen and paper, because why would God speak to you and say something if you're not going to write it down?
That's good.
Every single time God spoke, somebody wrote it down. That's why we have the Bible,
Amen.
right? So why would God speak to you and say something? Because, my mom tell me stuff all the time. Like, she would come in early and be like, gospel, do all this stuff. It was early, I was asleep. I'd be like, all right, cool, I'll do it. I just wanted to say whatever. So she turned the light off so I go back to sleep. So then like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she's like, why didn't you set the chicken out? I was like, I was supposed to set the chicken out. I didn't even know. I say all that to say, like, God honors desperation.
Yeah.
God honors preparation. So I dare you to maybe on a Saturday, maybe even this Saturday,
Let's go.
Go and lock your door. Go into your room and say, God, I'm not leaving here until you speak to me.
That's good.
And write down anything and everything he says. And then you bring to somebody that, like a spiritual authority like Pastor Josue, and they'll go through it with you. Say, this is of God. This is because you were hungry. This is of God. This is because you hate your sister. Like, they'll go through all that stuff. So, bottom line, God cannot ignore hunger and desperation. And let me just, one last thing, and I'll let you move on with the question. But God speaks to me every single Sunday through Pastor Terry, to be completely honest with you. And the only because every single Sunday there's something, I feel like Pastor Terry's like preaching, and then like I feel like he just like looks at me and he's like, ugh, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and then like Jesus is like, oh shoot, that's right, I got the door unlocked at home. So the thing is, the reason why God speaks to me every single Sunday at church is because I expect him to. I come into church saying there's going to be something for me. I'm going to get something today. There's going to be something that I can apply for my week. And I expect that. And God can't ignore that expectation. I got my phone open so I can write it all down. God can't ignore that preparation. So when you expect God to speak to you, when you prepare God to speak to you, when you are desperate for God to speak to you, he will not ignore you. And not only he's ignoring you, but he will answer that desperation. God always answers desperation.
Yeah. Wow.